Oh, good morning. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. This is our Saturday edition. Today is February the 1st. This is going to be a 2-hour show. We have an action-packed show. Adolf is not here, but he is here in spirit. Good morning, D-Love. Um, so, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you this. If you're watching, we want you to hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button. We also want you to subscribe. We want you to tell your friends about Detroit Black and White. Of course, be remiss to answer a question asked by Chief of Detroit Department. I was on 910 AM Superstation 7 years with Ada. Then we left, and we've been doing this now 2 years. So we've been at this for quite some time.
I can just tell because just when you come in and just looking at just the way the preview is so professional and just the way you represent. So
represent.
I knew it had
Detroit.
to do. I just had that feeling. I said, I never asked a question because it's just obvious that you're an expert at what you do.
Oh,
so just in the chemistry between you and Adolf is amazing.
Thank you. So
just so the FYI, 7 plus 2 is 9, so I did say 9 years. We have to go to.
She wanted to break
I'm not introduced. Okay. This morning we have Detroit Police Chief Todd Bettison. We also have Eric Brown. He's always starting stuff. And we have Police Chief of Trenton, Mike Hawkins. And we also have Allan Lengel, who's at home recovering from a fall, but he's looking great. Good morning, Allan.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So last night when we talked, I suggested that we all end recognizing February as Black History Month, that we all recognize an African American or Black person, as I say, that has contributed greatly to American history. So we're going to go around the room and we will go with, who want to go first? Todd, you want to go first?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, we just celebrated MLK Day, so MLK is always at the top of the list. But on MLK Day, Martin Luther King Day, I actually had the opportunity to go to the National Action Network brunch, and there, Reverend Charles Williams, either the second or the third, actually gave me an award on behalf of NAN, and that's something they typically don't do, and I was so honored. But with that, Reverend Al Sharpton, he just with the work that he's put in, I just want to give Reverend Al Sharpton and lift him up because with the National Action Network and what he's done to fight for our people across the country, I know he's not the one that you would typically think of, and he's still a living, he's still here
Absolutely.
with us. So I just want to lift up Reverend Al Sharpton, and then also locally, Reverend Charles Williams, who is the Michigan chapter president of the National Action Network. And I was so proud and privileged to be able to receive that award. And I'm the first police chief or law enforcement person to get an award from National Action Network. So I told them I was going to put it up proud in my office, which it is. So once again, thank you all.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, Eric.
I'm going to give tribute to O.W. Gurley. O.W. Gurley was born on Christmas Day, 1867 in Huntsville, Alabama. And I have a hoodie on representing 1921. And O.W. Gurley is a person that founded Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So tribute to O.W. Gurley, a very prominent figure in the history of Black America. And I suggest to anyone, if you have not been to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to see the gentrified area, what was once Black Wall Street, please go down throughout the course of your lifetime to Tulsa, Oklahoma. That experience for me in November 2021 was one of the most amazing things I've ever done in my life. The museum that talks about the history of Black Wall Street is just a phenomenal facility. And I just recommend if you're in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, take that trip there. If you're anywhere else in America, doesn't matter if you're black, white, green, or purple, visit Tulsa, Oklahoma at least once.
Okay, great. All right, you want to join me in?
I will join in.
Okay, great.
I didn't know the assignment, but I'm an avid reader, and recently going back and reading biographies. And I would say General Colin Powell, I think it's a symbol of strength, conviction in what he's done. Excellent book, excellent read. Suggested, regardless of political affiliations, just a symbol of strength and conviction. So I would say that.
Okay, awesome. And Allan.
Yeah, I've got somebody. Wayne Davis, who was the first black agent, FBI agent in Detroit in 1963, and he returned to Detroit back in the early 80s and became the first black agent to head the Detroit FBI. He died in 2020 at age 81, but he was a pioneer for an agency that needed a lot of change.
That's awesome. Okay, mine is Elijah McCoy. Elijah McCoy's parents were slaves. They left Kentucky, went over to Canada via the Underground Railroad, which, by the way, if some people don't know this, that it's not a real train. Well, it was not a real train. But anyway, they came here to Michigan in Ypsilanti. He did an apprenticeship at the age of 15 in Scotland. His parents sent him away in mechanical engineering. He came back here and he could not find a job due to racial discrimination. But he did work as a fireman at the Michigan Central Railroad, and that is where he invented the lubricant, for the trains. Not only did he invent that, he also invented the iron board that we can carry. So he's done a lot. He before he passed away, he was at Eloise
In Inkster.
infirmary. He passed away at the age of 85, and he's buried at Elmwood Cemetery here in the city of Detroit. So I implore and ask that everybody read about our history, all of our history. But this month is Black History Month. Thank you guys for participating. I'm hoping that the other guests that come on will be able to participate as well. From there, we're going to move on with, does anybody have an outrage? I know you have one, Allan, and I know it starts at DC.
Yeah, well, I think just watching sort of the classlessness of the Trump administration. I mean, starting from the crash in the Potomac to how they're not waiting for information to come in before they're drawing all these wild conclusions. I think it's sad. I mean, we're all one country. He's our president. Expect. Well, I shouldn't say we expect better behavior because we don't, but that's, I mean, it's kind of shameful. And now we see the FBI is being told any prosecutors who were involved in the Trump prosecutions are being fired by the DC U.S. attorney. And now some of the top FBI agents are being fired. And they're talking about the whole thing is they think there's too much political bias. Well, they want everyone to bow to the king now. They want a different kind of bias. It's not going to work. It's just going to be a mess. I mean, I think they've eliminated like 8 top positions in the FBI now, and they're going to be reviewing hundreds of agents to make sure that they're loyal, which is just insane. I think we've never seen anything like this before. So.
All right, Chief.
Yeah, I do have an outrage, and the thing that I'm outraged about is various businesses that operate, whether it's in the city of Detroit or other places, but I'm talking about the city of Detroit, that sell tobacco products and other products, but specifically like tobacco products, the vapes, and don't check for ID. And they're willingly and knowingly selling it to our babies. And so my mission is to protect our children's lungs and to hold those bad actors accountable. Now, I'm not painting the brush and saying that all of them are like that. But we do have some gas stations out there, and we have some of the smoke shops. And I've already shut down 6 of them, and I'm doing operations, and so I'm just putting it out there for them. Change, because I will be coming, and we will be doing our undercover operations, and I will send individuals in. And if you don't check the ID, you sell them a vape, you sell them tobacco products. I'm going to use the power of the city of Detroit, the law department, and you're going to see me on TV, Detroit, shutting them down. I'm going to hold a meeting and bring them in, and I've already met with National Baydoun and some of the others who are good station operators, and they support me 100% because the majority of the gas stations don't like the bad actors either. But I'm just letting you know, I'm holding them strictly accountable. It's not fair.
Chief, I have a question.
What's the age?
Hold on 1 minute.
Go ahead.
So when you say you shut them down, will they be shut down permanently, or they have the opportunity to reopen if they meet some certain criteria?
Yeah, absolutely. We want folks to come into compliance and do it the right way. But tickets, holding them accountable, taking their business license, because it's a privilege to be able to operate in our city. And so the best way to get compliance is to hit people in their pocketbooks. And when you shut them down for a period of time, as you know, Vanessa, that gets folks' attention because they're selling it and not doing what they're trying to do because they're putting profit over our children.
Well, I'm going to say this and then no, go ahead, Allan. You have a question.
I just wanted to clarify. So you are shutting. You say you've shut down 6 so far, and in what period of time? And also, what are the standards? How old you have to be, and what are the issues of tobacco and vapes, and what? Tell us.
Yeah, you're supposed to be 21 years old to purchase tobacco products.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so they're selling them. They're selling them. They're selling the kids in middle school. And it's a big problem in the city. I got kids that are on their lunch, leaving school, going to the local gas station, being able to purchase vapes. It's a big problem, Allan.
So it's vapes, cigarettes. What are the products that they should be looking out for?
Tobacco.
Uh-huh.
And then they even sell this other stuff called Delta 9, which if you don't know, it looks like a blunt. It looks like a marijuana pre-roll, but it's a loophole where it doesn't have active THC in it. But when you go into some of these gas stations, you will see a big jar of it. And it's like, oh my God, they're selling pre-roll marijuana, and it freaks our citizens out. But because it's Delta 9, it doesn't have, as they say, active THC in it, they're able to get around the law and sell it, but you still can't sell it to minors. And then it's another issue with our gas stations as well, where they sell, the street term of it is loosies. Well, they'll sell loose cigarettes. You can't do that either. You have to sell a pack of cigarettes. So, they're selling loosies,
That's a federal
loose cigarettes to our minors.
Yeah.
And so that, I am outraged about that. And so my thing is, I'm going to protect our babies' lungs. They should be able to breathe, and I'm going to do that.
That's recently.
Yep,
For the same reason.
Yeah, they did. And I did my operation first, and they saw some of the media, and it's just getting attention because it's not just the Detroit issue.
Right. We're getting ready to talk to the chief and Trenton.
Yeah, I mean,
We're not going to get outraged. And then
I've gotten outraged, but I agree. We have the same issue. We're on a smaller scale, obviously, but we do have undercover operations. We were just talking about it 2 days ago, setting up another one. We let people know we're coming, right? We want you to ID people, and we want you to turn people away. So that definitely is not just a Detroit problem. That's a problem probably statewide, nationwide. But if we're going to my outrage, I guess my outrage would be the lack of qualified candidates for police officers and the attack on police officers over the last several years. Now, I say that, and there are outstanding officers, and we have outstanding officers in our department, but trying to find more and trying to convince people to be the police. And I think there's been an attack on the profession. And when I say that, and I was at the FBI Academy over the summer, and there was a question posed, who would want their son or daughter to be a police officer? And I think the class I had about 40, 50 people in it. I was the only one that raised my hand in the entire class. So everybody, I don't want them to do that. So I stood up and I got on my soapbox and I said, well, you have to understand that you, meaning we, are then the problem. Because if we're not saying how great of a job this is, how noble profession this is, and degrading the job, and then we see it on the news, we're doing a disservice to the next generation of people coming that we can count on to be police officers and take care of the community. So my outrage is the lack of qualified candidates, but also the job that we as police officers are doing, promoting the profession. So that's my big outrage. Not of the week, that's my outrage of the year.
Of the year.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say that as it relates to police, we hear, and there are a lot of people who don't respect the police, right? And I think that is the big issue. Don't respect and don't respect and do not the word escapes me. But the bottom line is
Respect is free, right? We have to respect the community as well. And
Right.
you have one bad apple, and you've seen
It's
it in
both
Minnesota,
the whole
you've seen it in other places, right? And it damages the whole profession in all law enforcement officers. And I learned long ago, so I teach a class at Staff and Command on the problem employee and the discipline process. So I look back and I try and take examples from myself. And I learned a long time ago, and it goes to Allan's point earlier on his outrage. You don't have to respect the man. You have to respect the position, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's the president, the mayor. It doesn't matter who that person is. It's a position of authority that was earned, given, elected, and you have to respect those positions. You don't have to agree. You don't have to like the person, but we've lost respect over the years. And I'm not talking in the last week, the last 4 years, whatever. We have lost respect for
Right.
people that do the position.
Right. I think the other word that I was searching for was trust. People don't trust the police. And we know in our community, a lot of times in the urban community, our kids are like, we're not talking to the police. They're gonna lock us up for nothing. There's a lack of trust in communities. And so I think the respect along with trust lends to people not wanting to become members of the police department. In addition to that, it's very dangerous.
And trust takes
It's
months and
very
years
dangerous.
to build
Yeah.
in a second to break.
lose.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
I'll jump in really quickly
Yeah.
and say this. In the city of Detroit, but with me being out, the relationship with BPD, we've done a whole lot, and I found that on average, in general, our community has a great relationship with the community, and we're an exception at BPD. I'm at 99% field rate. I've got candidates lined up to join the department, and so it's just been it's been an amazing thing. And most departments are saying, "Well, how do you do it?" And we're hiring from the community. It's very diverse. The typical class, if you look at our department, is very reflective of our community, and it did help too that Mayor Duggan and City Council increased the pay rate, and we were able to give our officers a $10,000 raise. Because you have to pay people.
Right.
You're not gonna have individuals that necessarily who go to college and you're trying to get the best of the best, and you say, I need you to do this job, and everybody has the perception that they don't make money. And so officers, contrary to popular belief, I don't know what you can pay somebody to risk their life. It has to be a calling. However, you shouldn't have to live in poverty either. You should be able to afford to take care of your family, and we're able to do that now.
And
What-
to your
what
point
is
from the
the pay?
community, I think that's a great point because you, on a bigger scale, are doing what we are. We're trying to promote the people that came from our community, live in our community, to serve the community, which Detroit is doing as well. And I think you get a more invested employee who lives there. Their family lives there. They're out driving around protecting them at night, knowing this is my community. And I still say, residency went away a long time ago. I think it's one of the single worst things in policing
I agree.
because when people left,
I agree.
that sense of community left. So before I became chief and I was the union president, we got a city living bonus. If you live in town, you get a bonus for living in town because you have to go deal with these people on your off time and see them. But I think, hiring from within the community is ideal in making, great community police relations.
What
See, this
is
leads to-
the pay? What's the pay for both your departments? What's the pay range? For
Well,
Detroit?
right now, my officers are making up to 90 grand. Yeah, and then with the overtime opportunities, it's up there. So
Okay.
the average officer, after they get some overtime, etc., man, they're pulling down $130,000 a year. And some of our supervisors, I'll just say that I've had supervisors within the department make over 200,000. And so it is just so many diverse opportunities when I'm talking about a big city. You can work the Marine unit, you can work the aviation unit.
Right.
It's just so many different opportunities within the department.
For Trenton, we're starting in the upper 50s, and then we go to patrol to 80. If you're a supervisor sitting on the desk, a lieutenant's making $97,000, $98,000, and that's without any overtime. We have so much overtime, grant-funded overtime. I encourage people, make more than me, right? You're out there working, right? I don't have a problem with that. But we have opportunities as well. We have more out units than most agencies downriver. So there are a lot of opportunities for that. And what helps us is we've got a pension that sometimes these kids don't understand it right now, but it's a security blanket for them in the future.
Right. That's good money. Both good
Yeah,
money.
we're going to take a pause. We're going to go to a commercial. We'll come back. We're going to go to Eric Brown's outrage.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
We are back.
Oh, we're back. The Detroit in black and white. We're going to go to Eric Brown and his outrage.
Well, actually, it's not an outrage, but we often talk about how we can do two things, more than one thing at a time, 2, 3, 4.
I said that last night, I think, on the show.
Okay, we don't need no extra editor. It's my time.
I could do
And my point is, there are 1,449 days left in the current administration. We just got through talking about both the chief from Trenton, chief of Detroit, Allan. We just got through talking about some issues that can also be addressed instead of people spending so much time whining about the current administration. And to the chief of Trenton point, you don't have to like the person, but respect the position. The people of America elected him. So we have to move on and fix the things that we can control. The National Report Card came out just this past Wednesday. CNN did a nice piece on it. CBS News did a nice piece on it. But that has to become a part of the conversation all across America because that's something we can fix. We can't change the election results on November 5th. We can change the trajectory with regard to the educational crisis going on in this country, in urban, rural, the Appalachian Mountain area. We can change that. And we've been talking about this for years, actually decades here in Detroit, over 30 years. The time is now to fix this crisis. It's a very fixable problem. Some people see it as a civil rights issue, but it should never take students in Detroit, Baltimore, St. Louis, Cleveland, suing their state for a quality education. Something that's free should be given to people so that they can learn. But once you fall behind, playing catch up is impossible. If you're running a mile run and you get lapped, you're not going to catch that person that lapped you. So we got to step up our game as human beings, and we the people have to care about we the people of America.
Can I say something here? I just to respond real quickly, Eric. I'm not.
You
When
can't
I,
say that. I'm just messing with you. Go ahead, Allan.
yeah. I'm not trying to relitigate the election. Trump won, but it doesn't mean when he does something because he won, we can't say this is wrong. We have to speak out. I mean, that's what a democracy is about. When Joe Biden was president, people spoke out. They didn't like things that he did. They were critical.
They didn't. Not in the same vitriol manner as they are right now.
Well, I think that, there's a lot of extreme things that are happening. Like I say, when we see they're talking about, we're in the process of confirming a FBI director, and who's vowed not to be vindictive, not to go after anyone. And here it is, they're going after, they're firing anyone who prosecuted Trump cases. They're firing FBI agents. I think we have to speak out about it. Yes, he's the president, but we don't have to agree with everything he's doing, particularly when I see it as kind of egregious. So I'm not trying to complain and say, oh my God, Trump won, but now he's the president. Now he takes responsibility for his actions.
So we're going to go to Eric because we're recognizing, first of all, last night we recognized those people who lost family members in a plane crash this week. But there's someone in particular, a couple of people in particular that we're going to have Eric give a shout out to, and in terms of shout out, acknowledge them in the life that they live. And then I'm going to do my page. Go ahead.
I want to thank Jim Nardone, former chief of police from Trenton, for bringing this to our attention. And the young lady is Kia Duggins. She was one of the victims of the airline crash just past Wednesday, I think it was.
Yes, it was Wednesday.
And this was a young lady who had a bright future ahead of her. She's a graduate of Wichita State University, went on to Harvard Law School, got her law degree, became a Fulbright scholar, went to France. And she was amongst those 67 people, 64 of which were on the airline. We have to, assume that they are all deceased. Only 41 bodies have been found since, but there are two other young ladies. I forget their name, and I can look it up and bring it back to you in a minute. But they too were some exceptional young people. And one of the most important things about this tragedy, a lot of the people that perished were young.
Yeah.
A lot of them were young. Even some of the parents who were coming back from Wichita, Kansas, a U.S. skating competition. So again, we all know that tomorrows are not promised. The next second is not even promised. But this tragedy, I think, has hit home with so many people based on, from all accounts, it didn't have to happen. And when you see the latest video from CNN News and to see the helicopter run into the plane, that is just so catastrophic. And if that does not, and it has nothing to do with politics, it's just about being a human. If that does not tug at your heart, and this young lady was a pretty young lady, and it's part of her biography. Someone talked about her when she was a young girl, and she talked about winning a beauty pageant, and someone told her she was not cute enough. I mean, come on, people, we have to be better than that. And she did not win the Miss Kansas pageant, but she did place in the top 10 or top 5, if I'm not mistaken. So words have consequences, but at the same time, words can motivate people to prove others wrong. And she did that. And may the Lord definitely take comfort over all 67 victims of that tragedy. And regardless of what God you worship, this situation has to be one. And we're not minimizing any other airline crash, any other automobile, train, bus tragedy, because we have to understand this is the first major tragedy in 25 years. So it just goes to show how safe flying is. But this is one that, and this young lady definitely was a future trailblazer. She was on her way to be a law professor at Howard University this upcoming fall. And now all that is gone just at on a whim. And if there is any consolation, death is death. But I think that, no one suffered.
Yeah.
I think that's one positive way to look at it, but it's unfortunate.
And there's another positive way to look at it is it matters what you do when you're here on this earth.
Yes.
And we talk about her in particular, she made a difference. As Eric talked about, people said she wasn't pretty. She persevered anyway. But the fact that she was on the education trajectory, and was on her way to being a professor at Howard Law School, that is huge. That means she made a huge difference in the 30 years that she lived here on Earth. And that for me should be motivation for every last one of us to get up and do something positive, do something that impacts our community. We have 2 police chiefs that are impacted. They're impacting our community, not just the community that they live in, but the world that they live in. These are 2 chiefs that, listen, they just talked about their operations, all right? So it is important, we're not here to be, and I'm not preaching today, but we're not here just to be selfish. We're supposed to be selfless and give. So that's my commentary on that.
Let me get an exact statement with regards to her beauty. She did a TED talk in 2018 about beauty and the standards of colorism. And she spoke about, as a young girl, she wanted to be a princess, but her lighter skinned friend told her princesses don't look like her. I mean, why? But Kia went on to become a top 10 finalist in the Miss Kansas pageant later that year. So again, that just speaks to, if you let words define you, then it's also up to you to prove people wrong. It's no different than Mae Jemison. Mae Jemison, the first Black female astronaut, was told when she about career day that when asked what she wanted to be, she said, an engineer. I'm going to be the first Black female astronaut. Her teacher of all people, the people that's supposed to motivate you to be all you can be, told her that's not a profession for someone that looks like you. You ever thought about being a nurse? I mean, come on, people. We got to do better as human beings.
Yep. So I want to talk about my outrage. Everybody that watched this show, or everybody that knows Vanessa Moss, knows the Vanessa practice, right? So usually my outrage has something to do with some kind of case, some law-related case. So in Indianapolis, Indiana, I'm sure you guys have heard about this young lady she had 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. She would leave those kids in that apartment for days by themselves. Days to do whatever it was that she wanted to do. Now, listen, I'm thinking maybe the lady she had to have some kind of mental health issues to do something like that. The sad reality is the little girl is now deceased. She had frostbite, she had bruises and things on her body. It's just outrageous. What is outrageous about this? Not only did she need some help, where in the heck was the community? She lived in an apartment. Where were the neighbors? Where were her relatives? Where? We just talked about how it is important that we all give and serve in our community. How did this happen? That is outrageous. Okay, so now we're going to turn the subject to whatever it is. It's a free for all. This is Detroit Black and White, whatever you want to say. We have quite a few comments, so you want to do the comments?
Well, first, Bert Alberta had a question about an incident that happened almost in 2021 about a abducted child by a white lady. 4 children that were abducted, and he wanted to know how the story ended. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I do. That was over on the west side, I believe the 8th precinct, somewhere in the area of like 7 Mile and Gloucester. And ultimately, she was convicted of a crime. I can't remember what her sentence was, but the kids were all safe. Police actually intervened. The Detroit police officer recognized that something was off. The kids were able to communicate with the officer, and she was arrested for having children that were not hers, that she had abducted. And one of the things about it that was different was she was a Caucasian female and all the children were Black. So it was a pretty big case. But thank you for bringing that up. You might be able to find online what her actual sentence was, but I know that she was convicted.
And Burdell had a question about why do the police agencies announce their plans and certain actions to the media instead of going in stealth mode? He's just curious of why.
That's an excellent question. So we don't give the playbook per se, but it's some things we want not to happen. So I want people to drive better, for example. So we just had a traffic blitz over on the west side of the Squirrel Precinct yesterday, and we're having too many accidents. We have too many people that are disregarding red lights, etc. But my goal is not to ticket folks per se. If I can get you to change and forewarn you that this is coming, then that's the better outcome. However, after I forewarn you and we put it out there, we still got individuals who still choose to drive recklessly, who don't believe, and they have to deal with the consequences of traffic enforcement, tickets, etc. But I'm going to continue to do traffic blitzes. The citizens of Detroit, it's the number one concern. When I go to community meetings, they're complaining about people speeding through neighborhoods, and it endangers all of our lives. I can control what I do, but when I'm going through my green light, if somebody disregards the red light, if somebody's going 75 miles an hour down Woodward when it's only 35, you can't control the vehicle at that speed. We just had a student right there at Wayne State lose his life at Woodward and Warren, on East Warren, based off of the fact that somebody early in the morning was going about 70 miles an hour, lost control, hit another car, caused a cascading consequence, and that car hit the pedestrian student worker there at Wayne State, took his life.
Chief, you want to get in?
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to it. Not everything is meant to be punitive, right? So while there are operations going on, and we talked about the tobacco, we may do one, and then we advertise we're going to be doing more, because the real measure is not how much crime can we catch; it's how much crime can we prevent,
yes.
Right? And that's the old Pelian principle from the very beginning. So we get out there, make blasts, that we're going to be doing this. Let's stop the behavior. Let's not make it punitive all the time. But there are times that we do that, and there are times that behind the scenes we're making things work. But educating the community on what's going on, I think, goes a long way into preventing some of these.
And both of you all have jurisdiction under the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. And I know out in Washington County, they have a very stringent no bail policy. Does either one of your jurisdiction acknowledge the no bail policy based on the level of the crime?
So I'm not gonna. I'll jump in when it speaks to no bail and the courts. Judge McConaughey, he can come on and talk about that. I don't speak about other people's lanes. I stay in my individual swim lane. But it's a whole different conversation and topic, and it's pros and its cons. I'm for no bail when it's a heinous crime, when an individual, because everybody's pursuing innocent before guilt, but it's a whole bunch of different factors that weigh into it, whether or not, if this individual is given bail, are they going to go out based off of what they did and hurt a witness? Are they going to try to flee? There's other individuals who have access to go to other countries, etc. And I've dealt with some of those.
And I think, that weighs on police officers' minds as well, especially in smaller communities. Do I bring this person in? I have to just let them right out the door. We can't hold on to them. What I try and do is tell our guys, we can only control what we can control. Things outside of our control, we can't worry about, because we can't change those right now. There are laws on the books, whether you agree with them or not. Our job is to keep our community safe. And if we bring people in, we have to release them. So be it, right? We're out there being seen, doing what we can do, and let's control what we can control in our community.
And you know what? I have to say, I respect that, because both of you basically said we stay in our lane. I'm a defense attorney. So, of course, I am one of those that I have to argue for my clients, no matter what it is that they've done. But I also understand that the judge has the power, and they have to weigh factors. They should weigh factors.
Right.
Some of them just rubber stamp whatever the prosecutor says, in my opinion. But they should weigh factors. Is this person going to be does this person pose a threat to the community? Okay. So I have seen in the last 2 years that, setting these very high unattainable bonds, that has, gone away. A lot of the judges are basically really doing their job. They're actually listening and finding out what are the factors. What is it that this person is accused of doing? What is the risk of them causing some more harm in the community? I am an advocate of, I say poverty should never be a barrier to justice. So, I talked about this a couple months ago. I had someone who, he is accused of robbing someone. Did he pull out a gun? No. Did he knock the person down on the ground? No. Did he place did the person even see him? No. But did he place that person in fear? Yes. I'm at a store shopping and somebody come and take my purse. Now, for somebody to set a bond, and he lives in the city of Detroit, to set a bond of over $75,000 cash, that to me is ridiculous. The court has the discretion to set a bond that is reasonable, which is what the court did, and put a tether around his ankle. Now, tethers don't always work, but some of them are very slick. They'll cut that junk off and keep it moving. But trust me, they are always captured some kind of way.
Hey, Vanessa,
So, yeah.
can you recognize Kenneth Marlin? Same day Parley says, "Hey Vanessa, and happy Black History Day." Marlin basically says, if you don't care, why should you think others will care? Which is Marlon always has great points.
Right.
And Kenneth Powell had some really good points if you just recognize it.
Hey, Kenneth. Hey, Marlon. Who else did you say?
Same day Parlay.
Same day. Who else?
I think we're caught up there.
Dwayla Boyce. I know she's on there.
I didn't see.
Who was that? Tony. He said, if you've been
Perry.
arrested for robbery on multiple occasions, then you should not be back out on the streets until your court date.
Terry McCrimmon.
Yeah. Hey, Terry. Okay, that's your opinion. That's not my job.
Vanessa is the defense attorney, and I'll just say this from a victim standpoint. We have a lot of victims, and when we as police make arrests, and the victim of the crime of the neighborhood, and when they look up and see the individual that we arrested by detectives and everybody, at that point of life, why do we believe in the system? You can't protect us. They're back out and they're fearful. So it's that balancing act, and you have to look at the totality of the circumstances for each case. And I know individuals have to make reasonable decisions.
But that's where it puts the trust that we talked about earlier. They look at the police, and it's, we're stuck in the middle, and it wasn't even our responsibility to do that. We lock the person up and they're back out. They look at the police and say, how can you do this? Well, wait a second. It's not us. It's that lane.
Yeah, you did that part right.
We'll be back out there again and do it again. But it looks as if the police aren't doing their job, and that's where police officers on the road are put in a tough position. There's so many other layers that people don't understand.
And like you guys have a tough job, but believe it or not, our job is tough too. Don't think that we don't have real conversations with our clients. I've been a victim of robbery, okay?
Yes.
More than once. I hate to say 5 times, okay? So I know how it feels to be in fear, okay?
Yes.
But I also have learned how to be cautious of my surroundings, how I move and those kind of things. So it's important. Go ahead, Allan.
No, I didn't have a question.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to say.
So you said that gesture, you got something to say.
No, I'm sorry. I was itching my nose.
Oh, okay. You weren't digging in your nose, were
No, I wasn't doing that. I wait till the commercial for that.
What, you gonna ask them high taste now?
Oh, my God. I saw somebody digging in their nose. It's time for us to go to break.
On that note.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Okay, we're back, Detroit Black and White. If you are watching our Saturday's edition, thank you so much. We want you to hit that like button, subscribe. You can catch us every Wednesday and Friday night from 8:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. and every Saturday at 10 o'clock here at McShane's Bar, located on the corner of Trumbull and Michigan. We're here from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and sometimes we're here from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, which is the case today. Today is the first day of Black History Month. We have a lot of guests coming on the show. The chief of police for Detroit just had to leave. He'll be back next month, but we still have our neighboring chief, Chief Hawkins from Trenton Police, and who's going to join the panel, who's a regular panelist, is Jim Nardone. Jim, welcome.
The former police of Trenton.
Yes, the former police of Trenton. Was he your boss?
He was for a time, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But I won. I have gray hair because of him, and he has no
Yeah.
hair because of me.
I don't like
I have a question for the chief. I have a question for the chief. Chief, tell me what innovative things are police doing to fight crime? What's different than yesterday? Or is
Well,
there
number one, technology, right? So, unfortunately, Chief Bettison left, but they've got Project Greenlight. There's LPR cameras everywhere. That is a big crime
Explain
fighting
what those
tool.
are.
So license plate readers, they're stationary cameras on the road. When you go by, it records your license plate only. No proprietary information, doesn't run, your name, anything like that, but it keeps a categorized list of license plates and vehicles. And you can search up vehicles by plate. You can search up vehicles by type, by color. And so a lot of these agencies around are getting into what's a flock camera is a big system, flock system. And in Trenton, well, we're implementing those and we're putting them in the area so we can record plates that come in or out of town. So if there's a crime in town and we know it happened at a certain time, we can narrow down to what vehicles were in the community at that time. If we have a color, we can narrow down even farther. And there's been a lot of, are these giving up too much information or not? But these are just a tool. They don't give us who drives the vehicle. They don't give us anything like that. And then we can track them. I'm big on cameras. I've got some camera projects coming up in areas where we have special events, where we have our festivals. We're putting cameras up. But we're also doing it with the community. So it's not just the police saying we're doing this. My first camera that was an LPR system, license plate reader, came out with funding from a homeowners association. They wanted to protect their condos. They funded the camera out there. So, and we used it. As a matter of fact, just 2 weeks ago, we had a stolen vehicle. We're able to track the vehicle, located in Detroit by using the flock system, and it was successful. But with all the technology, with everything going on, body cams, there is no substitute for just good old-fashioned police.
Chief, what are the hot things going on in Trenton?
So in Trenton, we see everything that Detroit would see, but on a much smaller scale, much smaller volume. Our main crimes, and I just finished our annual report a couple weeks ago, but domestic violence, larcenies, those are some of our big complaints. We've had a lot of stolen vehicles in the downriver area over the last month or so. It's crews coming from wherever, coming downriver. But I would say domestics, larcenies are some of our main main problems.
All right, Jim, what's your Black History Month? You got the assignment
Recognize
last week.
Thurgood Marshall, who
Oh,
was the
you did
first,
say that, but
first
yeah, we didn't see you on camera.
Supreme Court Justice of the United States.
Okay. What about it? Did you do your homework?
The first African American Supreme Court Justice, civil rights attorney. Mark, are you ready?
We
don't not even together.
We have Marc D'Andre Severval. He's another guest on the show. You just missed the chief of police, Detroit Police. He just walked out about 2 minutes ago. But we have the chief of police for Trenton. So Mark is going to join us at the table. You don't want to set the table no more?
Ed
I'm
Sarpolus
tired of
coming on
listening to
at
myself
11.
talk.
Okay. All right.
Well, let Mark
Ed Sarpolus coming on at 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Come on, Mark. Mark will be here. Come on, Mark. I didn't give you your assignment, but I'm sure you can give us something.
Uh-oh. She put me on the spot.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So the assignment was that today is February 1st, Black History Month.
Mhm.
Name somebody. Talk about it.
If you talking, I would say Thurgood Marshall,
Okay.
okay? First Black
Supreme Court Justice.
Supreme Court Justice.
Okay.
Black history, right?
Yeah.
You want me to go
Is
on?
it American history?
Is it American history?
Yes.
Yeah, that's American history.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's American history.
Okay. Yeah, I want you to go on. I don't want you to say person like you did. Say somebody else.
Oh, I didn't even hear. I was just paying attention. Name somebody else. Dick Gregory. One
Okay.
of my idols. Right? I don't know if you want to call him a comedian or a philanthropist. He's definitely
Civil activist. Absolutely.
He's a lot of different things.
Right.
Somebody that I take from one thing, just wearing a lot of different hats, who he is in the community, and kind of using humor sometimes to insert the truth
Right.
into people's minds. Right. So that's somebody that is I don't mind. Who else can I go on? I mean, we can go with the typical ones. We can go with Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all of that type of stuff. Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. I mean, do I need to go into the details?
Yeah, next week when you come, or week after next week you come, you're gonna have to do your assignment.
Oh yeah.
Only two of us did our real assignment. No, 3 of us did assignment. He did his on the fly. But at any rate, welcome
How you
back
doing? How you
to Detroit Black and White. So happy to have you. Tell us what's going on in your world.
Oh man, all kinds of stuff, man. News story after news story after news story. We got as far as the most popular case that I've covered. We got a lot of people now trying to spin the narrative on what's going on. Right?
What popular? Which one?
Well, we're talking about the missing girl case, the Messiah Harris.
Messiah Harris. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's a lot of smoke all over social media about that.
Okay. Could you tell us what the smoke is?
Well, not really, not too much.
Oh, you can't tell us.
No,
I can tell you that I watched your live last week when you went in the house with the cousin and it was that the auntie and the mama. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That was real crazy. But what was crazier? I was mad that you were going over there like that. You don't know what people had going on in their house. For all of you guys that don't know what we're talking about, is Mark, why don't you tell our viewers what you do?
Well, I do citizen journalism, report the news of all different kinds around the community. So that's one of the stories, one of the many stories that I tapped into over the last few months.
Okay.
And one of the things, just to interject right quick, that bothered me about the Harris situation and social media and the cruelty of people on social media, it has nothing to goddamn do with her being fast. This was a 42 goddamn year old man that got her pregnant. And to say that this young girl was fast, come on, people. We have to quit with these excuses and deflection of bullshit. The problem is the 42-year-old man, not her.
Yeah.
We've got Maurice Morton in the studio now.
Right. Yeah. I was just told that. Hey, we have Maurice Morton, attorney Maurice Morton, who is here on the show Detroit Black and White. Welcome, Maurice. How are you?
Good morning. It's been a while.
I know it's been a long time. I keep up with you and your family on social media. Unfortunately, you hear your family's experiencing a high media case. Marc was actually at the vigil. So why don't you tell us what's going on? Give us your niece's name. Tell those viewers who don't know what was going on, what's happening, and you can take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. Appreciate it. Any way we can give attention to this issue, and particularly to Ashley Elkins, is appreciated. Ashley went missing on January 2nd, so a little more than 4 weeks ago. The mom knew. The mom had a feeling that something was wrong. She rushed to Ashley's home and unfortunately had just missed her by 10 minutes. About 4 hours later, her phone pinged to the ex-boyfriend's apartment. And so they immediately went to the police and said, hey, she's missing. The phone is pinging to this apartment. But, unfortunately, because of policy, the police couldn't do anything, not at that time. And I'm going to get back to the point that I want to make about that. And so ultimately, there was no response by the police that weekend. It was on day 5 that weekend. My wife and I worked, and the family worked tirelessly, sending out social media. The family was out putting up posters and everything. And, finally, I got to the chief of the Warren Police Department and spoke to him that Monday morning. And then we started speaking to media all that Monday. And then ultimately, it took on a life of its own. The media started reporting on it. Warren Police still was not convinced on Monday that she was missing. They said that, hey, maybe she's still out on her own. And ultimately, they had video of her, what they thought was her walking with the defendant or the ex-boyfriend. Turned out it was a second woman that he was walking with to Ashley's vehicle. That's when they realized, something may not be right here. So they executed a search warrant on that Tuesday, found substantial evidence in his apartment, particularly in the bathroom, a bunch of blood evidence, which led them to a dumpster. Bunch of evidence in that dumpster as well. So that's where we were at that point. I'm going to stop there in case there was questions. I can take you to the end if you prefer. But at that point, we then realized that harm had come to Ashley, and police had surmised, based on the evidence as of that point, that she was murdered.
And the blood that was found there, that has been her blood?
Yes. So the DNA was taken a couple weeks back. And not sure if you heard. So as of 2 days ago, the DNA was returned and it was her blood. And so as a result, they were able to charge him with first-degree murder and other counts.
Maurice, you indicated that her mom, your niece's mom, knew immediately that there was something wrong. And then she went to the police, and you were ultimately able to talk to the police chief. How long of a time span was that? And what was your interaction with the Detroit police? I mean, not Detroit, Warren Police. I'm not the Warren Police.
Yeah, so it wasn't until day 5, that Thursday the 2nd was day 1. Warren Police were not very receptive towards mom on that Thursday and Friday. In fact, they made a comment to her that, 99% of the time, these women go off and they're partying and blah, blah, blah. And we said, well, this is a mother of 2. She's a 30-year-old mother of 2. She has a 7-year-old and 10-year-old. This is unlike her. Something is wrong. She had broken up with this man, and it's Friday now, and her phone had pinged to his location. I'm a former prosecutor, so I said, hey, that's probable cause right there. They can go into that apartment on that Friday, but they didn't. And it wasn't until that Monday when I spoke to the chief, he apologized. He said, we're going to get right on this. And they did, but they were still of the opinion that she was out there voluntarily, which turned out to be totally wrong.
So when he apologized, was this after the social media as well as the news media attention to the case, or is this after you guys had made a whole lot of phone calls, etc.?
It was both. So the media attention started right after. I spoke with him early Monday morning, and then the media started reporting on it during the noonday that day. But there was a bunch of social media coverage and a bunch of community coverage, out there in the streets. There was coverage. So not your traditional media, but non-traditional media was definitely reporting it all that weekend. And there was this major push, but the media said, look, we can't report on this until the police release it to us, which they would not do. I mean, I literally had to say, you're releasing this Monday morning, and they finally agreed to do it. And so then the traditional media took hold.
Maurice, there were some items found in the landfill. Can you illuminate on that? What might have been found there?
Yeah, I can't really speak to that in detail. That did not come out in the case as of this point. And to protect the integrity of the investigation, they really have not shared with us exactly. They did pull some items from the landfill. Unfortunately, they were not able to locate her remains. But one of the interesting charges, or I won't call necessarily say interesting, but disturbing charges in this case is mutilation of a body. And so, not sure if they have evidence, but they would not have charged that. We know that the attack took place in the boyfriend's bathroom, obviously, substantial blood evidence. And then that dumpster had substantial blood evidence. That's why they end up going to the landfill, because the dumpster had been taken there on that Saturday morning. Sure. Thus, my original point, which was, if they had gone into that home on Friday or Thursday night, I'm not saying they could have saved Ashley's life, but they could have had her body, because the dumpster didn't come until that Saturday. So it was unfortunate.
And that's what and that's one of the things that has bothered me. How you doing, good brother? From the start, my initial post regarding this situation on Facebook, and I'm not one to play the race card, but I did say that I felt color had a lot to do with the lack of urgency with the color of the victim. Your niece had a lot to do with the lack of urgency of investigating it from the start. And that's one of the things that we have to be very deliberate and intentional about calling out, because even as you stated, your sister, her mother, spoke to the police with regards to some of the inclinations that she had, and they seem to have been dismissive of it. I recall years back when Tara Reid, that was a 24/7, 365 story on 247, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, hell, even CNBC covered it. So, it is what it is with regards to how we view the media, how we view law enforcement sometimes.
Yeah, it's no doubt race played a role. I've said that in a few interviews. I'm not going to skate around the issue. When our Black and brown women go missing, police don't actively respond immediately. Prosecutors don't respond immediately. The media doesn't respond. And I'm speaking as a former prosecutor. We always want to think and believe that they're out there willingly and voluntarily. And it's not until we, ultimately realize, oops, maybe something is wrong. And then it's too late. It is, people don't realize how critical those first 48 hours are. That's why there's TV shows about it. That's why everyone knows what 48 hours means. And so why do you have Ashley alerts for Amber alerts for children? And we're saying there should be an Ashley alert for women when they go missing, especially when there's evidence that they're facing potential harm at the hands of a husband, an ex-boyfriend, ex-loved one, or someone, whether it's sex trafficking or the like. Police should be able to, or policy should allow police to respond within 24 hours. Maurice, they should have gone into that home as well.
We have a police chief here sitting here, and I want him to talk about your experience with Maurice, as well as Eric is saying. Listen, it appears that when it's brown or Black women that have these issues they're missing, it seems to be that the police are just very slow to move it. What is your take on that?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with him, but what I'm going to say is somebody coming in to report somebody missing, a lot of times you are correct. Are they out on their own? They're an adult, right? But there's always extenuating circumstances. And I don't know the facts of this case. I will tell you, I have worked with Warren in the past. Their detective bureau was outstanding when we worked with them. But I will tell you, I was on here before on a cold case, and I thought we did not do a good job. And it was a black female that we found. Now, the opposite side is she wasn't reported missing, right? So that family didn't even report her missing for years. So we have a completely different aspect, and she was into sex trafficking, and not that matters. Since then, since taking over, my job was to solve that case. But now with the chief, our job as officers is to take every citizen complaint seriously, regardless of who it may be, because I'm addicted. I'm a first 48-hour addict, and I sit there and think, man, I can solve this right now, right? But who do you talk to? I would say if there's something like that, try and talk to a detective as well. You're going to get in and talk to the officer, talk to the desk person, but talk to a detective who may have some specialized skill in solving these, and something may click and say, hey, this is something we need to get on quickly. But there's mistakes in a lot of investigations that people don't know. You mentioned what Tara Grant was it that you said that case? A lot of mistakes in that one as well. And Slaying in the Suburbs, excellent book if you read that. And that's about that case. But
mention the name of your missing.
Tanisha Edison was the name of our missing, and it was 2011, and she was unidentified. We identified her, and I don't want to take away from this conversation, but I think back when we're having this conversation, if things were done immediately, things would be solved a lot quicker instead of, in our case, 13 years later. In this case, 5, 6, 7 days later. Could it have made a difference? Who knows? But sometimes the evidence is important.
Maybe one of you can answer this. Chief Hawkins, former chief, Nardone, prosecutor Maurice, and you, Vanessa. The 24-hour rule, is that a real rule when it comes to a person being missing before you can report it?
Well,
that was always something they had said, but there's extenuating circumstances. Right. What is it? A mental health issue? Is it a drug issue? Is it there a threat? It's every case that comes in has to be looked at its own merit, and there's times you got to get on it right away. And there's tools that we have trained officers in evidence, in cell phone pinging, and things like that. That there are times we have to get on that stuff right away.
I will say that I will have to agree with, in terms of my experience, okay, that it depends on who the heck it is and who you are, who the person is reporting. And that's the honest to goodness truth. If you are connected, you know a lot of people, you start name dropping, etc., you're going to get some traction immediately. But if you're just some Joe Small like Vanessa Moss, it's not happening.
But it seems like Maurice gave, his, Ashley's mom, it seemed as if she gave the police enough information to get on it right away. So I guess that's what brought up my question. What was it about them not getting on it more expeditiously?
Yeah, and I think.
What you think? Go ahead, Maurice, and then Mark is going to weigh in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I think, unfortunately, we've normalized these type of situations. So woman goes missing. Yep. We instantly want to believe that there's no harm. They're out there voluntarily. They're in the streets, as opposed to looking at all the other things about her. Oh, this is a mother. She has 2 children. Her 7-year-old is autistic. These are things that's uncharacteristic of her, not calling, not responding. Her phone pinged at an ex-boyfriend's location that same day that she's reported, and you wait till the following Tuesday to search the home. That's, to me, not acceptable. I have to say this, though, and once Roseville police took over that case on Tuesday, they were great. Chief Berlin has been excellent. I've said that him and the detectives have worked this case. They've gone to the landfill. They went 7 straight days along with 50 volunteers from Canada, Northern Michigan, multiple police agencies searching for Ashley, and we appreciate that. They've done a heck of a job investigating to get the evidence that they have. What I'm saying is that level of attention and detail, should have started sooner, and should be the same level of attention and detail every one of these cases receive. It shouldn't be, and I'll admit this, I think some movement was done because I'm a former prosecutor. I knew people. My wife is a media personality. She knows people, and things started to get done, but it should not have to be that way.
Right.
Where were you a prosecutor?
Wayne County, right out of Detroit. And I was in the homicide section for multiple.
Oh, wow. So you know your stuff.
I mean, he pretty much said everything I was gonna say in a nutshell, man. On top of him being connected to who he's connected to, and putting the pressure on him. But in a lot of cases, social media, right, is putting the pressure on a lot of these agencies to solve the case because it makes them look bad. Once you get the details of some of these cases out there, right, and then the severity of the situation, that was a fact.
Chief Hawkins.
See, my theory is this: as a police department, we have to err on the side of safety. And if we go in and we're wrong and she decided not to come home, I'm okay with that. If we didn't do anything and we find out, man, we screwed up and we didn't do our job, I'm not okay with that. So to your point, I agree with you, but we have to err on the side of safety and check and make sure you're okay. And if you're okay, do you need any help? If not, you're fine. But if you're not, we're already ahead of the game, and we don't look like fools on the media and on the news, and we don't look inept in doing our job. So we have to get out there and do it.
I think that Maurice makes a great point about a mother who has two children who's just suddenly vanished. I mean, she's not that kind of mother just to kind of run off and leave her kids off there. That's a telltale sign that you have to act immediately.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to go to break, and then we'll come back, and we'll go back to Maurice.
All right.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
All right, we're back at Detroit Black and White. Maurice, you stopped in the middle of your story. We need you to wrap it up, bring it on home. And I will say that I'm so sorry that this happened. I was one of those people too that shared it on my social media. I think my heart goes out to you and your sister. It's awful.
Well, no, thank you,
Okay.
and we appreciate that. And yeah, to wrap it up, and I'm not just banging on the police because, like I said, they've done some great things in this investigation, and we appreciate that. I mean, one of the key, legal maneuvers they made was charging this young man with lying to police initially to get him held, right? Because he was already researching how to flee and how to get away with the crime on his phone. And so they got him held, they got him in custody as they worked the case to bring the murder charges, which they brought yesterday. And they brought first-degree murder, and police will not bring, and a prosecutor will not sign off on first-degree murder unless the evidence supports it. So we feel very confident in this case. We're appreciative that we made it to this point. And as I said yesterday, this is now the start of our journey to justice. I try to stress that to mom and to the family. It won't bring closure, but at least it's the start of our road to justice, and that's where we want to be.
Right.
And without a doubt, Maurice, your family is in my thoughts and prayers, and we'll continue to pray for your niece Ashley, because she does have a 7-year-old who is autistic that her mom spoke about. Every time the phone rings, he's that mom. It has to be very, much tug on the heart for her being a grandmother. So definitely, I'll keep you all in my thoughts and prayers.
Appreciate it. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
All right. Good seeing you, Maurice, but not under these circumstances.
I know. Hopefully next time it's under better circumstances.
Yeah, well, we're going to keep in contact because we want to know what's going on with the case, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Thank you. Now, next we have our resident pollster, Ed Sarpolus, who's on the show. Hello, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was really enthralled with the whole storyline, listening in what the cost, what happened, because I used to live in Warren and East Point. So anything you're talking about was so important. I've got 2 daughters, so I feel anytime something like this is talked about, because it's a serious issue.
So you're here, Ed. I think you come on, maybe once every other month, and we talk about politics in
There we go,
Michigan.
politics. Yes.
Correct, politics. So what do you, first, I'm going to ask you this. Do you have anybody that you want to acknowledge for Black History Month? Because it's the 1st of February, and everybody that's come in has said something about someone that is a Black person for Black History.
Well, for me, it was my ex-partner, David Green. When I started in business back in the 70s, my ex-partner, we went around Michigan and worked in different cities, and that's where we began to see the need to work together. He taught me about the Black community, my neighbors in Detroit growing up, Black community. So I would have to say the people I grew up with that allowed me to basically work in the community, get to understand their community, because we went to their churches, they came to our churches, and our families came together. So I think I want to reward the people that I grew up with in Detroit.
So Ed, let me ask you this. We've got the governor's race, we've got the mayor's race. Let's start with the governor's race. What do you make Benson, Duggan, and who else is going to jump in? And where does Garland Gilchrist come in?
Cox is in.
Well, yeah. Well, Cox has officially put his toes in. He hasn't officially dropped in. Cox is in because of the fact he had over $100 million lawsuit victory. So he's got $30 and $40 million laying around his office someplace that he can spend on the race. What we have here is that, as you well know, last month the impression was given to us that the Betsy DeVos, the Amway Corporation family, had basically helped John James to consider running for governor. Okay, and he's got a house now in Grand Rapids, close to the DeVos family. So that's where the ties came in. But now with the U.S. Senate opening up, will John James stay on running for governor, or will he run for U.S. Senate? And the reason why there may be reconsideration, if Michael Cox gets in, that's going to be a drop. That he's going to have 30, 40 million from the very start. So can John James match that kind of money very quickly to catch up with that? So the question will be is where's that going to go? Now, to tie the governor to the Republican side, we also have the U.S. Senate race. So John James has to decide they want to get in the U.S. Senate race. But now you have Mike Rogers, who just lost to Lisa Slotkin, saying he's going to rerun again. So I think what you're looking at, the governor's race and U.S. Senate race, is going to determine on the Republican side, where does John James go? There's also Eric Nesbitt from West Michigan wants to jump in the governor's race. And so that's close. On the Democratic side, I think that you have now the Lieutenant Governors Association say that they want to financially back Garland Gilchrist at least for governor. They didn't talk about running for U.S. Senate. So Garland Gilchrist right now has somebody they're doing outreach for him to give him some money to run in the race. Because one of the important things you need to understand is Garland Gilchrist does not have a natural funding mechanism like Jocelyn Benson does. There's other people that may be getting into the race. If Garland Gilchrist, and he'll be able to depend on some outside money, because right now with Jocelyn Benson has at least $6 million already in the bank to run for governor. So Garland Gilchrist will probably jump in if he can raise the funds. So that's where that stands. And Mike Duggan, I'm doing some analysis. What are the odds of him winning? The important thing for Mike Duggan, and for those who study political history, typically a woman candidate, whether for U.S. Senate or governor, never wins the city of Detroit her first right out, whether it's Debbie Stabenow, Jennifer Granholm, or Gretchen Whitmer. So Mike Duggan knows that the Black community basically may end up supporting him in the general election. That's what he's counting on. because the like in the community. Because when I do polling in the city of Detroit, I have not seen since I've been doing polling others for Bart Stupik from the UP who helped Barack Obama on getting some issues. Constant support that would get reelected again as mayor if he were to run again. So I'd say on the Democratic side, Benson is probably the top candidate right now. Garland Gilchrist, we have to see what funding. Because Benson started her race already, so Garland Gilchrist will have to play catch up. If he doesn't get the money this year, waiting until next year could cause him a problem trying to take on Johnson Benson.
And it's interesting that you talked about Garland Gilchrist right after you talked about Senate. Have you heard any rumblings about him possibly running for Senate?
I've heard rumblings of that, but that's where his money disappears. Because the Lieutenant Governor Association is going to support him where the seat he has a natural thing, which would be governor's race. And the trouble when you get U.S. Senate, you're going to get in Pete Buttigieg if he wants to get into the race. And remember, he's got national funding for him. So, I mean, right now, money people for the U.S. Senate races, you've got Pete Buttigieg. That's the most likely case. There'll be Democrats working there. The other thing that you may see happening is that you can have like Mark Hackel decide to run for U.S. Senate. He's always talking about running for office. I don't think the U.S. Senate on the Democratic side is because you got Haley Stevens has talked about running for U.S. Senate. Now, why would that race consider her very strong? Because the fact, as we learned in Lisa Slotkin race, when you're running in the general election, you can't be way to the left. Lisa Slotkin was perfect for the race because she's in the middle on a lot of issues. She talked about the issues that our vice president didn't talk about. Because when I've done analysis, Harris lost because she never talked about male issues or job issues or economy issues. We saw that here in Michigan. Just think about the large, if over 40,000 Wayne County voters stayed home and were Democrats because they never heard from her about any issues. So Haley Stevens, yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your sentence.
No, I said Haley Stevens, like Lisa Slotkin, does not only talk the talk, does the walk, because she got strong black support in Oakland County. She talked about the issues. She won Western Oakland County. So right now, she may be the strongest candidate just because of where she comes from.
Interesting.
Do you think it makes a difference that the Governor Whitmer indicated that she's not supporting anybody that's running for the governor's race? And she also made a statement that, basically, lieutenant governors don't even win when they run for office. Do you think that that's going to have an impact on Garland Gilchrist's race?
Well, the bottom line is that there's a history in Michigan that typically the lieutenant governors have a hard time running and winning because they don't oppose their boss, the governor, John Cherry. For those who have been around, Senator Cherry. Yeah. He lost the race because of the fact he never challenged Granholm. Okay, right. In order to win as a lieutenant governor, you have to take on the governors not doing a complete job. For example, if I was lieutenant governor, I have a lot of problems with Gretchen Whitmer. I know on issues that she doesn't even address. But the problem, lieutenant governors are afraid to take the governor on in order to get going into the race. So basically, they throttle their own race because of the fact they don't speak to the issues. That's the problem.
Go ahead. And this is exactly why, as the conversation started at the beginning, I oftentimes refer to it as politics because the games have already begun, and the games began when Slotkin was anointed as the presumptive nominee for the senator candidacy when Stabenow stepped down. That was an opportunity. I agree with Adolph. That was an opportunity, in my opinion, that Garland Gilchrist should have gone rogue and say, no, this is my opportunity.
Oh, I agree with you, but a little bit of an issue on things like that. I know a little bit more what happened at a Senate race than you. Jebby Stabenow was my first political candidate that I worked for back in 1975. Okay, I helped her win county commissioner. But the bottom line is, when Gary Peters won, we knew 4 years in advance that Carl Lebanon was going to drop out of the race. Okay, so Gary Peters was asked to help run that congressional race, and Detroit won that. Debbie Stabenow said in advance that she was going to leave, and so what happened was that they wanted a woman to run for U.S. Senate race, and that's why Lisa Slotkin got that. So these things are usually planned out 2 to 4 years in advance on these Senate races on who they're nationally going to pick. Okay, and that's what it is. I've been doing this for 53 years now. Behind the scenes is what goes on. But I would say Garland Gilchrist right now, because the money he would need would have to come from the Lieutenant Governor Association. Governor would probably be his best choice. Okay. Now, my only concern with Garland Gilchrist, I think he made some mistakes by selling his very expensive apartment in Detroit. He didn't make it sound like he was a natural Detroiter. He almost sounded like Hill Harper. You know, he's got to be more Detroiter. And I think if he's going to run, he's going to have to be more involved in the community. Hill Harper, Garland Gilchrist, because I helped him with he ran for the city clerk in Detroit. Yeah, I helped him work on that camp. I did his TV ads with my partner on that back, and we worked with him. He's a hard worker, but the difficulty, he hasn't done much in the Metro Detroit area to help him out. And I just don't see him. He's invisible. Okay. And that's the problem with being lieutenant governor. You got to have to create your own messaging, and if you don't, you're going to lose.
He did do well in his first run as a potential city official against Janice Benford.
Well, but we bottom line, when I took on his campaign, that was June 2nd. He was at the bottom of the polls. I worked with John Graves to raise money for him. John Graves did a hell of a job. We were able to run the campaign, and we got him to come out of the primary, but we were short about $20,000 to get the AV vote. Otherwise, he would have been city clerk. But the problem is the fact, since that time, he hasn't done the activity that I think that he needs to be a strong candidate for governor or anything. That's where I'm coming from. He has not done that activity. I like him. I know him. He worked very hard when we were working on the campaign. And I don't think since then he's not done that aggressive nature.
And then how about the mayor's race? Let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Oh, my goodness. There goes being born and raised in Detroit, and I spent a lot of time in Detroit. This is a case where basically business community basically is staying silent right now, except for one or two businesses, and they're not really hot on any of the candidates. The business committee right now typically comes in with a couple $1 million to say who's who we want. So the bottom line right now, Chantel Jenkins and Mary Sheffield are hoping all the more men get into the race, because it comes down to definitely women's going to win, okay? Because the male votes will be divided. Now the difficulty you're going to have. Pardon? Was there a question? Okay. All right. Okay. Sure. Chantel Jenkins, I've worked with her in the past. I worked with her when she left office in some projects. She's well respected. The problem is the fact she hasn't taken advantage last year. We get her name out there in the community, and I don't think she's really tapped the corporate evidence. She's got a good team in place. Mary Sheffield, she's going to have. When I've done polling, she's not as strong as she thinks she is. Okay. I have not heard the business community. I know one business person may back her, but because they need her vote on the city council, we're not maybe know who's going to get business support maybe until after March 30th when they're going to show them their money. Now, there's a lot of races out there, and I think we got to think about. Basically, right now, it's coming down to between Mary Sheffield and Chantel Jenkins. Chief Craig, I don't know where he gets his money. Dennis Archer, his source of money basically already told him no. Fred Durhal is a good guy. I know him for a long time. The difficulty is I don't think he's going to have enough money to build name ID across the city. He's a good guy. He's working hard. Now he's married, so obviously he can show he's committed to the community. Todd Perkins, the attorney, he just came out of the blue. I just don't see where he's going to get the funds made to really build that access in the city at the present time. The hidden candidate is basically Solomon Kinlock, whether or not he gets into the race within the next 3 or 4 weeks. And if he gets in, he's got a natural base of work and support. The problem is the fact I've talked to all the candidates. I know all of them. I've worked with them. So what I'm looking at, who's the strengths right now? Fred Durhal, obviously, right now has got some early money, but will it be enough? Mary Sheffield's out there. It's a women race type thing. You got the same thing with Chantel Jenkins. Mary is probably a little bit stronger than Chantel, but on the male side, I think until Johnson Kinlock gets in, we won't know whether or not it's going to be a strong male candidate.
All right. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're supposed to do this show till noon today. However, there's a private party here. So we're going to have to wrap it up. And then, of course, we have to come back on in the next 2 weeks. So we'll
gladly do that. Now, I do know that the fact that there's an association in Metro Detroit will be doing some polling on the race. Okay, so by the time of the convention, there'll be some polls. It won't be my poll. I just want to say, when there's polls, I always get a call from somebody. So there'll probably be more reference to what's going on, probably by the Democratic Party event on February 22nd.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, thanks, Ed. So we're going to wrap it up. We had the teachers of the show for 2 hours today. However, there's a private party that's going on. It's a bit loud, so we're having a hard time hearing our guests. So we're going to wrap it up today. We will be back on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. next Friday, 8:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. And then next Saturday, here at McShane's, I want to thank Teresa, Lady T, Jim, all of our guests, Chief Hawkins, Chief Bettison, Marc D'Andre. Sorry we didn't get enough time to talk. And Bob Roberts, who are allowing us to be here at McShane's every Saturday. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. See you guys.
Take